everyone, to another episode of Agents of Mace. Today, we are talking Jessica Jones. We're back in the gritty Netflix underbelly of the Marvel Universe, sort of. But now it's coming back. I don't know, it's all very confusing. But we're on our watch through of Jessica Jones. We're on episode 4, aka 99 Friends. And let's get into it with a little bit of first thoughts on this episode. I'll let someone else go first for my maybe controversial first thoughts.
I mean, at this stage of the show, it kind of feels like we're living in Killgrave's world, right? It's kind of just more along this, like, you know, who does he really have control of, and like, how are we going to figure out how to stop this? Like, you know, kind of realize the scope of his power and who all he's controlling and what he's getting them to do. And that's kind of like the vibe that I've had in this one.
Okay. How about you, Elisa?
I did enjoy this episode. It was not my favorite one so far. I think that part of the problem with me in this series is that my brain is now wired for the 6 or 9 episode seasons. And so I keep looking to see how far we are. And it's like, dang it, there are 13 hour-long episodes. And so whenever we're getting these things that feel like filler, like my brain is now rejecting it. Like, no, we need to get on. When are we going to get Killgrave? And so there was literally nothing, to me, wrong with this episode. But I don't like that we are ever so far from the season finale. 13 episodes.
Yes. Yes, I agree. That's part of my complaint for this episode as well. And then slowly I remembered why it was like an ultimate complaint for this series for me. I feel like we get so much backstory, but real slow. It's not like a quick flashback that explains something. It's like, no, we're going to have the entire episode essentially be a flashback to explain one tiny piece of the overall story that could have been a 5-minute flashback scene. But instead, they're going to drag it out and tell us a whole story that in the end really only explains one thing. My maybe controversial take on this episode is enough of Malcolm. Like, I get it. I get that his character drives plot. I get that his character is there for a reason that will be shown more as the series goes on. But it just seems like they couldn't think of a way to make Killgrave have any sort of power that other than Trish that like may affect Jessica. So they just gave us Malcolm, who's just like always there, and Jessica kind of feels bad for him, and then he becomes like a plot point in Killgrave's plan, and you're just like, ugh, okay. It just seems very convenient and easy.
Yeah, a little bit of the lazy way out,
yes,
almost.
Yes,
yeah.
The cool thing about, not cool, the scary thing about Killgrave is that he can basically like convince anybody, right? Anybody on the street, and we see that in this episode. We see it in the next episode. There's lots of like moments where like a little kid comes up, or like a stranger on the street says something to Jessica, and you're like, that's scary. That like you don't know who could be mind controlled. That's what's cool. Not like, hey, here's this person that like, of course they're going to be mind controlled because they're like they live next door to you. I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of 4 episodes in, there's enough going on where it's just kind of like, from Jessica's perspective, it's literally like, how could she even run a business, right? Mm-hmm. You can't trust anyone. Anyone that approaches, you would think instantly it's like, it's got to be Killgrave. Like, what do I do on my end to try to test that or prove that they're not in that kind of control?
Right. And I think that, like, there are some cool moments in this episode. I think, you know, we get some references to the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's very shoehorned in, right? Like, it seems very forced, and they refuse to say anyone's names.
Yeah, it's like things like that. I wish there was a little bit more friendliness. Like, if you're gonna mention it, like, let's give it justice. You know, we're all in the same universe. Like, you can mention,
which, like, I really hope that we get to a point where we do get to do a watch through of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it's the same in that, except in that it happens in the first couple episodes, and then they don't talk about it for like 2 or 3 seasons, and then it starts to happen a little bit again, and then they're like, no, never mind, and they never mention it again. And it's just like, why would you put all this time and effort into these shows? And especially with these, like, these look good. Like,
right.
If you crushed all this together and maybe cut out some of the fluff, you would have a feature film on each of these characters and then the Defenders. Like, that would be cool. So they put all this time and effort into it, and then to just kind of be like, nah, I don't know. I don't think that we want to actually make it canon. So just don't ever actually say anyone's name. We don't want this tied to it.
They also keep calling it the incident, which I was like, is this before we decided it was the Battle of New York? Because they're just like, like how we didn't really know what to call the snap before they started calling it the blip.
Right. Yeah, the incident. And that's another one that seems like, you know, when Marvel couldn't say mutants.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they were just like, no, let's figure out a workaround.
It feels really like Victorian. Like, it's a bad thing that they're not allowed to directly reference, so it's the incident.
We also get to see in this episode someone who has been like, I know that we kind of get this with Jessica, but this is the first time that we're seeing like a non-powered, non-main character person dealing with the fallout of being controlled by Killgrave. So we see the cop who was under Killgrave's control and almost kills Trish, like dealing with the fact that like he remembers that and trying to like prove to Trish that he's sorry and that he wants her to be protected and that he believes her and he believes Jessica. And Trish, you know, rightfully so, is a little hesitant when he comes knocking on the door with a box and is like, hey, let me in. I got something for you. Like, I probably wouldn't either. No, thank you. Turns out the thing that he has for her is a gun. And so now she has a gun. And the moment where he like comes back to the door, and then the camera does that thing where it like goes through the door and we get to see what Trish is doing on the other side, and she's just pointing the gun at the door, but she's like smirking. It was kind of a weird moment because we're seeing Trish like take this turn of, I don't know, like, you know, we've kind of learned that she wanted to help Jessica early on. When Jessica like first gets her powers, she wanted to help her kind of, yeah, you should be a hero, like. And now we're seeing Trish kind of take like what could lead her down. Like, I'm going into this pretending as if like we don't actually know what happens in the next couple episodes, but
I don't.
Seeing that she's like, she could be taking a turn here, right? Like, this is like Joker territory. Like, she could very easily flip to a villain at any point in the near future.
She is showing some poor decision-making skills, since, like, they did have a pretty lengthy conversation, but she does let the dude who tried to kill her into her house. Like, okay, I get it. I get he didn't really want to kill her. He was controlled by Killgrave. I get that he's got that square jaw thing happening, but still, you don't just get over being almost murdered by somebody within just a few hours. Like this is poor behavior, Trish.
Yeah,
Poor behavior. Make him take you out to dinner first.
But he's handsome and he gave her a gun, so he's totally trustworthy.
She's only human.
Yeah.
She's only human.
You know what this is kind of reminding me of? It's kind of like the people in Blade, right? That are basically marked by like vampires. It's kind of like
Yes.
the same concept in a way. Like Killgrave's marking all these people, and when you think about it, like, man, that's really horrific. Like, if he's making you do these crazy things and you can still remember them, like, that's pretty terrifying. And it's just building this really interesting, like, kind of world within Jessica Jones of, like, who's been marked and, like, what do they remember doing and how does that impact the rest of their lives, right? Because he's got to be in fear of, like, this guy's always going to have control over me. Like, if I screw up, like, what's he going to make me do?
Right. And it's interesting to see because, okay, so Killgrave, if he comes along and we have to assume, right, that, like, Killgrave didn't just do this to a handful of people to climb this social ladder and, like, have all this power that he has. He's done this to hundreds and hundreds of people, probably, I would assume. So it's wild that he's made it this far without this ever coming to light anywhere, especially since we're seeing now that, yeah, you feel violated, that he made you do something that you didn't want to do, but you remember that he made you do stuff that you didn't want to do. So it's interesting that really, like, Jessica and now this cop are kind of like the only people that are like, hey, I remember, yeah, he did make me do that, and we want to stop him. And I don't know if it's just a fear thing, like maybe, we don't know how his power works, so I assume anyone who is controlled by him doesn't know how his power works. Like, could he just take you over again in the snap of a finger, even if you remember? So maybe it's like a fear thing that's keeping people from trying to stop him or trying to take him out. But other than this power of suggestion, if you will, he doesn't have any other powers.
Yeah.
So
It's awfully skinny.
he is awfully skinny, so nothing's stopping people from stopping him,
Yeah, it's like, you get the group of survivors, and it's like, why aren't they banding together to try to go and take him down or something, right?
Right. Instead, they just kind of talk about it, and you're like,
yeah,
well,
put that energy to, like,
do anything, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did want to talk more about the situation where we get the mention of the Avengers. Essentially, we kind of are led to believe that with anybody potentially being taken over by Killgrave, Jessica is sent on a normal job call, I guess you would. I don't know what you would call her. Normal work as a private eye, but
yeah,
she follows a guy who may be cheating on his wife. The wife calls and is like, hey, did you follow him? She's kind of like, that's weird. And she looks inside and sees all the papers from the lawyer or the lady who is on the phone with her. And when she breaks in, sure enough, it was a setup. It's a trap. And we learn that Jessica's not bulletproof. The lady pulls a gun on her and shoots her in the shoulder and basically starts complaining about how superpowered people are the reason that her mother died, and so she's gonna kill Jessica to get revenge for her mother. Yeah. obviously doesn't work. Jessica, hulks out and like throws the gun through the wall at some point, which I thought was just like a funny way for her to get rid of the gun. And then just like destroys the apartment piece by piece. And you she says that she has 99 friends. That's the name of the episode. She has 99 superpowered friends that she knows about in the neighborhood. We know that she doesn't lie, right? But she stretches the truth about her abilities and stuff. So I'm assuming that she's stretching the truth about knowing 99 superpowered individuals. But also she's a private eye. So do we think that
really
maybe
know.
She does know some other people with powers?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, she's surely is through her work, and especially because, like, most of what she does is in the middle of the night when crime usually happens, and that's when you would see people that are new to the superhero game or have been around or probably out there doing stuff. So, like, is it 99? I wouldn't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a handful, a little bit more.
Because right now we know that she knows Luke Cage and Killgrave, and then the Avengers. I mean, she doesn't know the Avengers, but the world knows of them. So,
and two of them don't have powers.
True.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And it's like, how do you, would she be aware of Daredevil at this point?
Right.
Or even Punisher?
Right. And so audience, if this is your first episode listening, you may not know. The rest of you probably do know, but we didn't start this series in chronological order. We started the Netflix series with Jessica Jones saving Daredevil for a little bit closer to the release of the new Daredevil series. So in chronological order of this series, Daredevil's first. Daredevil is a presence that is known in Hell's Kitchen by the end of the first season of Daredevil. So I would assume that Jessica has at least heard of the Daredevil or the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, I guess is what they call him. So maybe, I don't know that they've ever met, but
wasn't Jessica Jones released first on Netflix?
No, Daredevil.
No,
the first
Daredevil.
Season of Daredevil was first.
Hang on.
And then Jessica Jones, and then Luke Cage, and then actually I think Daredevil.
I can't remember how much they were spaced apart though.
I think they were pretty close
Daredevil
together.
was 2015 season 1. And then they were the same year, but Jessica Jones was in November and Daredevil was in April. So
okay.
And then I think Luke Cage, and then Daredevil season 2, and then Iron Fist, and then Defenders, and then Daredevil 3, and then Punisher.
Yeah.
Potentially.
The True Freeze.
Man, even Netflix. Sorry, like we're going on this little tangent. They were pumping these out pretty quick. Like we were getting new content like year after year, like, which is awesome. So it's like, what happened? I get like Disney Plus is trying to bring back the quality on things. They're trying to scale back, but I found the bulk of these shows to be quality.
Oh yeah,
and they're getting these out in a pretty timely manner. So come on, y'all gotta let's work together.
Lost Elisa. They not only were pumping them out, but they had like serious money behind them. I mean, they had relatively large names, and as the series went on, like bigger and bigger names joined, and then they also it wasn't cheap. I mean, it was like full like sets, full effects. I mean, I mean, I think we're not there yet, but I think about the fight scene at the end of the first season of um, Luke Cage. That's a crazy fight scene, and there was so much money behind that show, and it's amazing to me that they just kind of petered out. And
So now you just hyped me up to go finish Luke Cage because, like, I started season 1 but never finished it, so I didn't
Yeah.
get to see that fight scene.
yeah, oh, we'll definitely have to talk about it.
But yeah,
I just it's crazy to me that, and I guess I understand, right? Like they got to a point where then Disney was probably like, hey, we're gonna start our own streaming, and we're gonna instead spend all of our time and money on our own streaming platform series. I'm glad that now we're getting this new Daredevil series, and it seems like they're kind of pulling along the Netflix crew to be like, hey, let's kind of maybe continue this world. That's what I'm excited to see, like how much of it is kept as canon.
right.
Because yeah, they did so much and it wasn't bad. I mean, sure, some of the seasons were better than others. Iron Fist wasn't like blow your mind incredible, but it was watchable. It was fine. I think Defenders could have been cooler if they had, maybe spread it into 2 seasons instead of 1. But
Yeah.
there's some wow gotcha moments in that. So yeah, I guess, we'll have to see what they do with this new Daredevil series, and if maybe that's going to spin off into a new set of Defenders or Heroes for Hire. Or
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're getting another Shang-Chi movie, but Shang-Chi shows up in Heroes for Hire, so like maybe they could, this is how they could like cross some of that stuff over into the series and the movies.
Yeah. I would like kind of say 99 Friends was more or less a building block episode. Nothing too exciting in this one, but it still kind of builds out like more of the story of like giving you context of like where this is actually taking place, the effect that it's had on people. So makes me wonder, especially with how many episodes they've said Daredevil Born Again's going to have. Like, we still don't really know. Are they going to be like 30-minute episodes? Or are they going to be hour-long episodes? How many of those are going to be like building block episodes like this versus very critical ones?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they can't do. I don't know. Because I guess it depends how much they want to pull over from this. If they pull over a lot, I feel like they don't have to do as many building block episodes, and maybe they could focus a little more on story arc stuff as opposed to like the history.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like they're not gonna. They don't even want to like fully commit to tying the Disney Plus series to the feature films currently, because they don't want to make people feel like they have to watch both. So I feel like there's no way they're going to expect people to go back and watch the Netflix series.
Yeah, I can't
Although
really say
now
anything,
it's all on Disney Plus, so I don't know.
though. I can't really say anything on that because someone hasn't watched a certain something.
I haven't seen it. I'm still behind the times here. But I don't know. I really like these. I hope that they continue these in some form.
Yeah.
To kind of get back on the topic of this episode that we kind of strayed away from, the big twist at the end of this episode is that thanks to this new cop that has joined the crew, they're able to get a photo, I believe, that shows Malcolm talking with Killgrave. So that's where we get this sort of like, okay, now Malcolm is a spy for Killgrave, or works for Killgrave, or Killgrave works for him, or they're somehow connected. And it makes you wonder if we see Malcolm as sort of like a drug addict. He's always trying to like break in to steal stuff or get his next fix, but then it kind of makes you see it in a different light. Like, is he actually using drugs, or is this some sort of like long-term side effect from being controlled by Killgrave for too long? How long has he been working for Killgrave? Is he the one taking the pictures for Killgrave?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at a thread, and that's kind of what people are wondering as well. Like, if his use of drugs is similar to like Jessica with drinking, because they've both been apparently in the comics. He was just like a big nerd. That was kind of like his story. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like, if you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. So hopefully, because mostly I just can't even remember, but I hope that they explain more about the limitations of Killgrave's powers and how long they last, how close he has to be. You know, can he say, hey, you're going to drive from New York to California, and then does he have to stay within a certain radius of you for you to stay under his command? Or like, once you get out of the state, are you good? And you're like, I'm not going to drive all the way to California. So I can't remember, but I hope that some of that stuff gets explained a little bit more, or at least touched on in some form. I know in the comics it's a little bit different. And I think they mention it in this, but in the comics, like, his power is 100% tied to his pheromones. So his power of suggestion isn't necessarily like him telling you to do something. So like, he couldn't suggest something to you over the phone. He had to be like there with you physically, and there are like moments in the comics where people just plug their nose and they're good. So I don't think I think in the show they lean a little bit more into the like, it's like a pheromone, but he can also just kind of suggest things to you and you'll do them. So
yeah,
I guess we'll find out soon, hopefully. Well, any final thoughts on this episode?
This episode had both the moment that I have most liked Jessica's boss so far and least liked Jessica's boss so far. I mean, overall, still very, very negative on her. Isn't her name Hogarth?
Yes.
Horrible name. Anyways, the part where I thought, okay, that's actually funny, was whenever the assistant walks in and she says, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over that print. Which is really mean, but it did make me laugh. But then later when she takes her current girlfriend to the restaurant where she proposed to her wife, I was like, was she a man in the comic? Why is she so terrible to women? It's awful.
Yeah. Hogarth is
she's mean. She's a bad girlfriend and a bad wife.
She and Foggy, I feel like, are the big crossover characters in this Netflix series arc. I'm pretty sure Hogarth's in every single one. And I just remember feeling the same way. Like, at first you kind of like her because she's like kind of quick and witty, and she's mean, but she's like Devil Wears Prada mean. So it's like, it's like, that's funny. Like, okay, she's the boss. And then every now and then she does things like with her like weird side love story that like gets played out for some reason. Like, why is that a part of the show? I have no idea. But the whole time you're just like, wow, you're kind of an awful person.
Yeah.
And everyone in these shows like works with you or works for you, but you're kind of terrible.
Yeah, she's super manipulative. Which poor Carrie Ann Moss. She just
can't catch a break.
Yeah, she gets put in movies as either that kind of ice queen or someone who is kind of like mean and uppity. Like, did y'all ever watch Chocolat, where she was the mean uppity mom?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love that movie. Wonderful movie. She's the mean girl in it.
Well, hopefully we'll get a nicer side of her at some point. And hopefully she comes back in the MCU. That'd be great. Because I think Foggy was before we got Matt Murdock showing up to save Spider-Man. Foggy, I think, was the only character that appeared in one of the movies, if I remember correctly. And I don't remember which movie, but it was one of the early ones.
Which one is Foggy?
The guy from Mighty Ducks. Matt Murdock's associate in Daredevil.
Okay.
I don't think he's shown up in Jessica Jones.
Okay, I was about to say, I don't remember a Foggy.
I remember if he does. I looked it up. So he's in 38 episodes of Daredevil, 1 episode of Jessica Jones, 1 episode of Luke Cage, 5 episodes of Defenders, and he's mentioned in The Punisher. Okay. But I don't believe he was in any of the movies.
He's not in any of the movies?
Unless it was like a unaccredited type thing.
Now I feel like I have to spend the 120 hours that's going to take to watch all the movies again. I feel like I remember seeing him in a movie and being like, the crossover is happening, and then it never went anywhere, and I was like, oh, he just happened to be there.
Yeah, I don't think he was in any of the movies, but maybe. Yeah, I don't think he was. But he should be. I mean, that's what I'm so irritated by is they're not even bringing anyone back for the new series other than the heroes.
I thought they were bringing back, Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the last I saw, it was down to the guy who plays Luke Cage and Danny Rand's, where they were I don't know that they knew what they want to do with Iron Fist, if they want to make that a part of this new stuff. But I know that they were trying to get Luke Cage going again in some form. So I don't know that, I don't know. Did it say if we're getting another season of Jessica Jones or a new Jessica Jones series, or just that she was coming back?
I think that she'll just appear in Daredevil.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw.
I could see Daredevil turning into a Defenders. We're getting a new setup for Defenders or Heroes for Hire, but we're not going to get a new series for all those.
They could go Heroes for Hire route, but it just seems like, from what we know, it's going to be still more of a lawyer type show. So I could definitely see him utilizing Jessica Jones as being a PI for something. He just doesn't have the time. But he's I know someone.
Right.
That will help, but hopefully we'll get cool fight scenes and stuff. Hopefully it'll kind of,
I am hoping that Daredevil is going to have it's going to have those remember those first 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Mm-hmm.
They were non-stop action movie, but full budget Marvel film.
Oh yeah.
I want that energy mixed with She-Hulk energy. If they can somehow combine those two, I think that we're going to have a really good season of Daredevil, especially if we get She-Hulk.
Yes, bring back She-Hulk.
Maybe not the weird meta episode, but
yeah.
Hey, I liked the weird meta episode. If they made Daredevil weird and meta, I'd go for it.
I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I want to see the Kevin robot popping out from behind Daredevil in court.
Maybe they just put the Kevin bot in the background of all the remaining shows and movies. It's just there. They don't acknowledge it, but it's keeping watch.
I would love if that's the new thing was at the end of every movie, instead of an end credit scene, we just get some creepy scene of the Kevin bot plotting some ultimate thing, and then in 20 movies we find out that he's actually Galactus or something, and we've been tricked all along.
The real MODOK.
Yeah.
I'd rather have missed time, let's keep you up with the multiverse and explain what's going on.
The last thing that we see of him is him like designing the code for Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that is episode 4 of Jessica Jones. Be sure to join us next time for episode 5, when we're going to get to dive a little bit more into the story, and also we get a heist. So prepare yourselves for the heist of episode 5. And what's our question this week?
See, now I'm stuck on heist because now I want a Scott Lang miniseries going on, the ultimate heist.
How about if you could heist one item from the Marvel universe, what would that item be, and who would be in your heist team?
I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
Yeah. So I think we're going to start something new, and I think the next episode we're going to start giving our answers at the beginning of the episode, so you guys know what we would choose. So look out for our answers next week, and we'll see you all then.